clairvoyants say they have an ability to foresee the future on some level. They have an ability to tap in to the intelligence of a potentiality that it already exists, even though it may be in linear time and space in the future, a potentiality that it already exists that is most in alignment with the way the energy of the person that they're seeing for is running right now in that moment that they read for them.
That's really interesting because you can't quite literally predict the future. This is just a side note. You can't predict the future because of probabilities and free will, but it's at that moment, the highest probability that you're running.
The most energized potentiality or probability is based on how your conscious and unconscious belief structures are running at that moment. Your concept of reality is generating for you the most energized version. Most likely is what the clairvoyant is picking up on.
Welcome to Spread Your Third Eye podcast, where we're here to spread that third eye wide open and take you beyond the veils with our girl, Georgia Jean. Coming in with a circle of light. I am your host, Mia Wrights. Hello.
Hello, magnificent Mia. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here.
I'm so happy to be here. You're such a darling.
So we have the circle of light coming in today.
Yeah.
And the circle is going to talk about, well, they're coming in through other dimensions.
Yeah. All consciousness beaming in from wherever they need to.
So make sure to hit the subscribe button, guys, because guess what? Every time you listen to an episode, we are coming through with
transmissions, energy attunements. You know, when I channel, it isn't just the words that come through. There's always like freaky frequencies and energy that are, you know,
upgrading your system.
Exactly, upgrading your system. So, and today we're going to talk about the pineal gland, so these attunements today literally will spread your third eye.
Quite literally, we're going to spread it,
open it,
so
all that kind of stuff.
Let's talk about the pineal gland and how it is in relationship to your third eye. First of all,
well, essentially, it kind of is your third eye. Like when people talk about the third eye being positioned, that is, you know, behind here and like under the crown is the pineal gland, and the pineal gland is the multi-dimensional processor of the brain, which is basically saying that the frequencies, the signals that lie outside of the physical senses, the way we take in information through our eyes, smell, touch, taste. That the stuff that lies outside of the physical senses is processed by the pineal gland, and that's kind of like I don't have all the fiddly diddly daddly scientific or whatever details, and it's kind of like I'm like, oh, if I pull off the back of a computer, I think that wackadoodly thing does this diddly daddly thing.
Diddly daddly the wackadoodly.
But we have been channeling about the pineal gland and its role for a while, but I'm going to leave it to the circle to really deep dive on that.
So we're talking about other dimensions and pineal glands and third eye.
Yeah, and why at this point in time, at this juncture in time, so many people are trying to or are having rapid pineal gland openings, or they're trying to open up their pineal gland. You know, more than really ever before, everybody's like, how do I tune in? How do I open this up? And that is because the pineal gland is also really responsible for how we will experience a new reality, how a new reality will actually become more visceral and manifest to us.
So the pineal gland is actually, it actually filters out everything to create your reality. So you can there's all the spirit worlds, and then your pineal gland, it'll come in and filter into what we need for our reality.
I'm going to bring in the circle to explain this. Yeah, because it's like, it's more that it actually allows more to come in to our brain.
Okay.
So if the pineal gland is closed off, then that limits the amount of frequency vibration that can actually come in to this sort of receiving point, and then be picked up by our brain to then for our brain to learn and give us the new reality that's creating. Let's bring in the circle. They're better than me. They're better than me.
Let's do it.
But relax and take a listen, because I'm sure we're going to bring in some pineal opening frequencies during this very podcast.
Love it.
All right, here we go. Ah, yes, indeed, dear ones, we are here, and we are most delighted to make connection with you here on another magnificent day in your earth plane.
Hello.
Indeed, dear ones. So you are curious about understanding more about the pineal gland.
Yes, and other dimensions.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, good. So we'll give you a sort of basic summary to help you understand the role of the pineal gland and how it does, if it is open you up to new dimensions of experience, and if it's closed, how it keeps you in the contracted, limited, singular egoic identity.
Can you explain what dimensions are, first of all?
That's a really big question. So we like to use this concept of bandwidth.
Okay.
So if you think about yourselves being trying to tune in a radio, and you're running the little you're turning the dial, and you're going up and down the bandwidth, and the radio as a receiver is picking up different sections, and different sections of that bandwidth are picking up different transmissions, being the radio stations, what you hear. So if you understand that you are both a perceiving and a projectional device, in a sense. So you perceive and you project, and you start to perceive what you're projecting. That is what really kind of shapes your reality, your perception of life. And when you talk about dimensions, you're talking about the particular bandwidth that you are able to pick up on. Like that radio, you're able to receive and play that bandwidth for you to be able to experience it. Does that make sense?
We're in like the third dimension now.
Yes. So
going into the fifth dimension. So can you explain maybe that?
Yes. So, all right. So, and there's different ways that you can look at this. So each dimension, and there are many dimensions.
Not just 12.
Not really just 12, because there are so many creative experiences that are going on.
Okay.
But it is helpful for the human egoic framework to have a sense of a structure like that, that it is like a linear thing. But it's, in fact, it's because outside of this linear framework, frequency isn't operating as linearly as you might see it. If you saw like a sort of a wave signal, you'd say, oh, well, it's just going up and down like this. Yeah. But really, it's doing so much more. Okay. But sometimes what we and other broader consciousnesses share is concepts, so you can get a sense of, just like the radio station, there's like 12 radio stations, where you're tuned into is what you're experiencing at that time. Okay. And you're receiving it and you're perceiving it simultaneously. You're receiving it through the radio, and you're perceiving it because you're like hearing it, if that makes sense. So the human egoic framework, as it has traditionally been, is a singular egoic identity, meaning that you really do experience yourself as singular individuals interacting through that illusion of separation. So me is over there, Georgia is here. And you are perceiving life through the physical senses that are governed by these, the eyeballs, the ears, the functionality behind each of these pieces of biology that create your concept of life. If you are blind in an eye, you do not see that piece of life. Or if you have no vision, you're not experiencing, your brain isn't giving you the intelligence of a visual experience. But with your other senses like touch, sound, etc., you may be able to still construct a sense of the reality of a room in a way that you can navigate it, but it's not going to have the visual input part.
Okay.
So you'll know that there's a chair
Yeah.
there and there's a door over there because there's a sound that comes through there, that et cetera, et cetera. So your brain can still construct a reality that makes sense for you to navigate. And that's the thing we really want you to understand, is that when people feel out of their minds, they're losing their ability to live in a constructed reality that they can navigate through in congruence with the other individuals that they share that reality with. So you might see somebody who to you is crazy, but to us we would see them that they may be living in multiple dimensions at once, and they haven't been able to, for whatever reason, keep their focus enough on this dimension through their operating system.
That could be like somebody, not to get off subject, we'll get back to the pineal gland, but that could be like somebody who has multiple personality disorder.
It could be somebody who is, yes, having like a, what you might call a psychotic break, is hearing voices. And then because the brain and the nervous system even start to distort that,
Okay.
then it's all a big kerfuffle, basically.
Okay.
It can be very challenging for people. So we understand that. So the point of the pineal gland is that it restricts the amount of information that's coming into the brain to be processed. And when you're talking about what are other dimensions, as we're saying, they're bandwidths, they're their own form of intelligence or information. Just in the same way, a song coming through the radio is its own form of intelligence and information. It sounds like this, it's got the codes of what makes it a song. And out there in the infinite ocean of all that is, there's a whole lot of stuff going on that is experienceable if you are open to it. Now, the pineal gland essentially has 12 energetic connection points that, depending on how partially or fully open they are, is what allows some of those frequencies that lie outside of the human physical senses, like the sound waves that you're hearing right now, that allows that to even enter the brain system, and the brain to start to learn how to pick that up, receive it, and then give you an accurate and congruent with most of your reality interpretation. So for most people, for most of the time, the 3D reality, only 1 to 2 of these 12 energetic connection points are partially or fully open.
Wow.
So that means there's a lot out there that's being blocked out with somebody who, in the same reality, may, for example, be attuned to crossed over people or be doing what Georgia is doing now. They may have more like 4 or 5. Clairvoyance, this sort of thing. What is clairvoyance? It's the same thing. It is picking up on frequencies that are lying outside the physical senses and the agreed upon linear time-space reality. Clairvoyants say they have an ability to foresee the future on some level. They have an ability to tap in to the intelligence of a potentiality that it already exists, even though it may be in linear time and space in the future, a potentiality that it already exists that is most in alignment with the way the energy of the person that they're seeing for is running right now in that moment that they read for them.
That's really interesting because you can't quite literally predict the future. This is just a side note. You can't predict the future because of probabilities and free will, but it's at that moment the highest probability that you're running.
The most energized potentiality or probability is based on how your conscious and unconscious belief structures are running at that moment. Your concept of reality is generating for you the most energized version. Most likely is what the clairvoyant is picking up on. The strongest potentiality.
Wow.
Now, and that can change, which is why, yes, all readings are not accurate. They may also be picking up on a potentiality that is very energized because you have a strong desire or hope for it, or a big fear. We've talked a lot to you about this concept of charge, unintegrated charge. So they may also be picking up on highly charged potentialities that are coming from you lighting up particularly certain aspects of your conscious and unconscious belief structures and energizing them in that moment. Most people, when they come and have a reading, they're usually charged, meaning that most people who are seeking the advice or help of a psychic or a clairvoyant or something like that are feeling very invested in the outcome of that reading and may have a lot of charge, emotional charge. They want to know about that because they're worried about it or they're excited about it.
Yeah.
And so when you have readings, those timelines tend to be lit up with more energy, depending where the clairvoyant is in their opening. They may be picking up on those most charged timelines, which may or may not come to pass as the emotional energy of the person that they're reading for shifts as well.
Okay.
So readings can be helpful.
Yeah.
But what we like to help you understand more is, how do you get into that timeline where your greatest fulfillment is actually going to be? And that is by actually clearing out a lot of the charge that is kind
conscious
of fueling,
and unconscious going
yes,
in.
that's kind of fueling those other potentialities.
Yeah. Okay.
And when people are confused, they're often confused because they have multiple timelines that are partially energized at that point. And so their mind is, because they're multiple timelines that you're trying to land in. Should I take this job or that job or this guy or that? Come on. They have multiple timelines that their mind is generating, partially or fully, based on a whole bunch of sort of psychological circuitry that might be feeding a number of timelines. And that's that state of confusion. That's when we say, when there's confusion, doubt, indecision, it's an indicator of mind, that there is some aspects of mind in conflict that are not fully lighting up the desired pathway. Your energy isn't fully up, lighting up the desired pathway that you want, or that that you're sort of going for, basically.
Which goes back to, if you get into your heart center knows.
Now you're starting to bypass all that other shimshamery that the mind is dealing out. And so the pineal gland, so for the most part, most people are relying on navigating their reality through the information they're receiving through their physical senses. So that can be fine. You are welcome to play that game. It can be you walk into a room and you see there's something there and you don't trip on it, and you hear somebody call and you answer the phone, and people are very happy navigating their life through the physical senses. But why there is the opening of the pineal gland at this time is because as more frequencies can come in, and we will say this to you, there is 2 levels where your reality is really being shaped right now. One, it is the amount that your pineal gland is open or closed, the number of these connection points that are partially fully open. And 2, there is a sort of collective ceiling that the human collective agrees upon, that this is the ceiling of our reality. And the shift of consciousness that is happening, dear ones, is that each of you individually are having a degree that those energetic connection points are being opened up more. So in the past, where it's like 1 or 2, or the average person has 1 or 2 partially or fully open, and someone who has quote unquote gifts, 4, 5, or 6 maybe. Now you're all slowly moving up that spectrum, where what it will become more normal is that the collective population may have 4, 5, or 6 of these pineal glands partially fully opened, And then really open people maybe have 8 or 9 or 10.
And if you go all the way to 12 or go all the way out,
You
you
won't-
pop out of your body.
You won't be experiencing reality like this at all. That's why you
So if you
don't
open up
have
to all
all 12 open.
Yeah.
You don't have all 12
So I
open.
thought that was interesting. You guys
Yes.
told me that one time in a
Yes.
session. If you have all 12, then you
Because
wouldn't.
essentially, if they're all open, it's sort of like being quote unquote dead in that sense, because you're back in all consciousness.
Yeah.
There isn't that filter. So the amount that is open and closed is filtering how much. And you don't want it all open if the congruent collective reality is predominantly you're still feeding your body by what, even now, if it's like going to the supermarket and buying food and that's how you get food and you eat and you feed your body, if that's the congruent collective reality, then that's the game you're in. You don't want it all open. So now you're somebody with 9 connection points partially fully open, getting fed from life in a different way. You, even as a life form, probably aren't going to look the same because you're not functioning the same. Now, we will say to you, for example, dolphins who communicate, as far as you know, through sonar and can communicate across vast reaches of the oceans, do not perceive reality in the same way. Their brain is not putting reality together in anywhere close to the same way that you're experiencing it.
Wow.
Because you're not actually in the same physical reality.
Yeah.
The physical reality you are experiencing is the one your brain allows you to experience. So currently, your physical reality, you have opened up your mind and your belief structures and even your pineal glands enough to have an experience where you out there are not sitting in this physical room, but you are sharing this information, this intelligence somewhere else at the very moment that you are experiencing this. So you're already not in linearity. Television transmissions like this are the pre-paving of the breakdown of linear time and space.
That's cool.
You're sharing this, but you're not all together in the
Yeah.
same material reality.
Yeah.
But right now, the way you create this is you're looking at your phone or a computer screen, and you're seeing it through that, and that makes sense to your brain that you're having a multidimensional experience right now, listening to consciousness being channeled, multidimensional consciousness by a human being, and you're watching it somewhere in time and space that is not here right now as it's being generated. You're already having a multidimensional experience. But the way the brain creates this now, it makes sense because already phones make sense to you. Already things like now you have Zoom makes sense.
But I don't even know how the phone works. I'm literally calling my friend in a whole other country,
exactly.
and she's like, "Hello." I'm like, "Hello."
Yes.
Like, how wild is that? And all of us don't even think twice.
Yes.
But it makes sense to our brain.
How is it working? And you're like, okay, well, we have like, there's structures that are sending out signals and all this sort of stuff. That's the storyline you've manifested to make sense of the fact that you're actually having a multidimensional experience already. It still makes sense to your linearity. When you're on FaceTime looking at someone's face now, not even just at the phone, you can see someone's face. How is your face here in this room right now? Real time when you're somewhere else. Well, technology is mirroring. Remember, we always say frequency first, manifestation second. Technology is mirroring the frequencies that are saying you can be interconnected all over the world, out into space now. There's space transmissions. People are going into space and sending transmissions to Earth. And you are interacting out there in the galactic field now using technology. But this is the indicators of multidimensionality that you're already experiencing. And if you don't have enough opening in your pineal gland already, you wouldn't be watching this. You couldn't be watching this transmission if you didn't have significantly more of your pineal gland energetic connection points opened to even allow this experience to be happening for you to viscerally pick up and understand and experience in your reality. So you're moving up the spectrum.
Because you're coming from another dimension, and people wouldn't.
We're coming from another dimension.
You're literally, you are exchanging with
consciousness,
other,
intelligence.
Consciousness with other dimensions right now.
If you can hear this, if you can watch it or hear it, you are now definitely in a multidimensional experience, because you're not in this room, so that's already multidimensional. You could be listening to this in the future, the past, another country, but you're also able to pick up on the signals that are being transmitted through the channel that are not of your, that are beyond your agreed upon restricted 3D reality. And that's why a lot of people won't watch this until there is more collective opening.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And that, well, Georgia, the dear one, has to cough. So we'll take a moment here.
We're receiving the
Sometimes,
We're receiving the X class, the X9 class solar flare.
Solar flare energies. And even her throat is being opened more when we transmit through her. So there can be biological restrictions she even has from receiving the frequencies that are coming through this transmission that she's verbally channeling.
Wow.
A lot of people may have experienced tension around the throat as they are also trying to open up. If they are going to be some kind of verbal channel, whether you're just singing a song in the usual collected agreed upon frequency that music is, or that you're channeling intelligence that has lain outside of the collective wisdom of what reality is, which is what Georgia is doing right now, then sometimes needs to be more biological opening of the system. For Georgia to channel what she is sharing with you now, just to help you understand the functioning of the pineal gland, is first of all, the pineal gland needs to be opened so the frequencies can come into the brain. Then the brain needs that exposure to the frequencies enough so it can start to understand, oh, this frequency means this word means, and these frequencies put together means this concept about creative reality. When Georgia is channeling, she doesn't just get the words passing through, she might be getting imagery as well to help her conceptualize a concept, to even be able to verbalize, to keep up with the transmission. And she's only verbally translating part of what is being transmitted right now, which is why, as dear ones were saying, every show is an attunement, because that which still isn't ready to be verbalized is still coming in to respond to the girls' desire points, but also everybody who will ever watch this desire point.
Wow.
For awakening, expansion, to understand the broader state of consciousness itself. So when you talk about a new reality being created through the opening of the pineal gland, remember that as you go through biological adaptation to pick up on the new frequencies, the brain to start to learn them, and you'll all make mistakes through this learning process, just as when you were a little baby you made mistakes. And this is why it's very important to not hold this expectation of, oh, I'm doing a psychic reading, I must be 100% accurate all the time, or else I'm a phony or fake, or none of this is real. This is a biological adaptation. People talk about it as gifts and abilities like it's something magical, but it's actually a biological function that you will train yourself to come into an alignment that you can share congruently and enjoyably. But the new frequencies are coming in that have lain outside your collective notion of biological, physical reality are different. And your brain is going to create it differently. Telephones didn't exist 200 years ago. That's a different piece of technology that logically makes sense to you now that it exists. And that's part of why you can have a multidimensional experience. Same as cameras did not exist 300 years ago in this way. So you start to receive the new intelligence, then you generate something that makes sense as a projection of that, but you're actually moving into a new experience. Airplanes, now you can get on a plane and go and experience another reality somewhere else. Every time you make a change in your life, you're opening up to a new bandwidth of creation.
So when I go to a new place and I've never seen it before,
yes,
that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
My brain is now creating a whole new reality.
A whole new reality, yes. And you may have been, say for example, say you're really stressed, dear ones, and of course this happens all the time. You're really stressed and you're like, oh gosh, I just want to relax. I just want to relax. I just want to be calm. I want to find peace. I want to relax. And you're sending out that rocket of desire. I want to relax. I want to relax. I want to relax. And then in comes the frequencies that create relaxation. And they come in and your pineal gland's starting to pick it up. It's not something that's in your physical sense yet. And you start to receive the frequencies that are going to, for example, create Hawaii when you get to on the end of a plane. You start to receive the frequencies of this place that will make you relax. And then you go online or you manifest a friend telling a story saying, wow, I just went to Hawaii and I had the most wonderful, relaxing time. Or you manifest a story where you're watching on TV and you see Hawaii. Or you manifest a story where you're just type into Google, where's a really relaxing place, and you see Hawaii. You're already starting to get the little amount of frequency that can create this place for you is starting to come in with these little indicators that something is trying to become manifest for you. You recognize, oh, Hawaii sounds great. Now you start to get a knowingness. I want to go to Hawaii because it's starting to build energetically for you. And your brain is starting to learn the signals that will create Hawaii when in your logical mind you travel in the illusion of time and space on an airplane and then you get to Hawaii and you have a relaxing vacation.
Wow.
That's how creation happens. So when you talk about a new earth happening, this is why we say you are focal point creators. It doesn't happen so much from fixing what is wrong with what is manifest already, but calling in. And this is why the heart is the best place for you to focus, to really call in the new, because it's not going to be influenced by the concepts of the past of your reality that you've been inherited, been given, whatever. But you're calling in this new set of frequencies that are coming in the pineal gland, and your heart is opening up your pineal gland in a way that will keep you in a congruent reality. You don't necessarily want to bust open your pineal gland if it's too much or too little for your congruent reality. Now you're out of misstep with your current reality.
Real quick, let me ask you, how do our listeners open up their pineal gland a little more by themselves at home?
Indeed, yes. So again, there's so much that's going on that is both conscious and unconscious. And we would say to you, again, the best way is to go into the heart for this reason, because you already have a sense, because you incarnated at this time, that this is one of the gateways that need to open. That's why there is so many people, for example, trying psychedelics and doing things like this, which will temporarily open up more of these energetic connection points. And then you get a big influx of new frequencies and the brain kind of starts going, oh, wow, quick, we're going to learn this experience that just came in, just flooded in. The brain is like, oh, quick. However, you're not on that drug all the time, so you don't get enough repetition of the frequencies being available for you to congruently learn it. So repetition to exposure of higher frequencies will help your brain learn the new set of frequencies. So listening to these kinds of transmissions, which are multidimensional, we are bringing in frequencies that lie outside your physical senses. That does help open. And this is why a lot of times people start opening up and they get really excited to listen to a lot of channeled stuff or have more of these multidimensional experiences, because it's giving them enough exposure for the brain to learn the signals. Now, what we will also say, though, is your heart will, because anyone who's watching this, even if you feel some resistance, in part from your broader perspective, you're here for this party. You are here for the shift. You are here to go to the new Hawaii of creation. You've been calling in, please, we want a better reality for the human experience. Please, we want this new wonderful experience. You've been calling in those signals. You've got to open up to them and receive them. But if you go into your heart will actually operate, because it is the superpower supercomputer. It will actually do the work of opening the pineal gland in a way that's congruent with your current reality. A lot of people are going through rapid awakenings, and then their brain cannot simultaneously process their old sense of reality with the new frequencies that are coming in, and that's why there can be a lot of confusion. So this is why we say heart center, get out of the linear mind generator and come into the heart, because that will govern the opening. So you can start with that. Most people don't necessarily think, oh, the heart center and the pineal gland are connected, but they very much are in this process. If you have a conscious intention and you say, I really want to open up to broader experience, you're giving that permission as well. And the broader intelligence that is you is sort of waiting for it as well. A lot of people feel freaked out by the idea of opening up to things. And that is why the idea of FaceTime is a lot more palatable right now than straight up telepathy or someone appearing in the living room with you. So your brain is already generating a more palatable version of multidimensionality that you can currently process.
Wow.
Yes. But you will experience a new reality. As we were saying, the dolphins, when you see 3,000 miles, they experience in that corner over there, because their brain, yes, dear ones, is putting together reality very differently. Your concept of 3,000 miles is generated by your brain.
Wow.
Their concept of time and space is not operating under the same programs that you are. Neither is most of the creatures that are animals are not perceiving reality in the same way as you are.
Wow.
It's how the brain puts it together. And the frequencies, the most obvious, about the concept of the dog whistle that you humans can't hear.
Yeah.
But the dogs can pick it up. So that is real to them in a way that doesn't, you may see the result of it, but it's not your visceral reality to hear it in the same way. So once you start opening up together, and this is another reason why there is a collective ceiling, to keep you as humans more on the same page together. You can tell already you're all getting a bit crazy with it by all the disparity that's going on. But every now and then, there is a sort of a permission that collective ceiling of how much frequency can even come into the human collective experience is raised. That's why even if you look now, the number of people channeling, like the dear one, even when she started 20 years ago, there's a lot more, because the collective agreements to raise the ceiling and have more of this multidimensional information, consciousness, frequency come in to alter the collective experience. There's been permission to raise that, and that's why more people are picking up downloads, this, that. But you don't know what most of them are. Things like light language, things like feeling downloads. Your brains have not figured out yet how to actually interpret that into the concepts and the actual physical reality that the codes are that are coming through in those downloads.
Wow.
Most people think light language is a conversation or something, but it's a way that channel is interpreting new codes that are allowed to come in the best way they can possibly do that at the time, because their brain hasn't yet been able to verbalize it or actualize it in a way that makes sense to your current brain anyhow.
Whoa.
It's a little bit like you're looking at the specs of FaceTime, being like, I don't know what this gobbledygook is, but they're specs of what is behind the thing that creates FaceTime. It's a lot of intelligence that ultimately creates the phone that can do space time, but you're looking at that just going, or just holding that up as the first thing, but it's not the final manifestation.
Oh, okay.
It takes time for the brain to learn all that, pick it up, and then make it into something.
Okay.
Yes, but you're going through this gradual experience. Some of you do pick up intelligence off one another without FaceTime. You can feel when you're thinking about each other, or you can know, or you can have telepathic experiences, because the pineal gland and the sophistication of the connection of the brain to the frequencies coming in is evolved enough, and you've been testing and working it through enough that you're starting to get more accurate with that. And that brings us to one final thing we would like to share with you, is this concept of knowingness is the navigation system that you are trying to develop now, which is, again, we'll talk about this idea that there's two states of creation. Manifestation, which is you physically experiencing something, and knowingness, which is something is so full of energy that you know when you go to a logical point of place in time and space, it's going to become manifest. So we say this a lot. Mia, you know where your car is, don't you?
Yeah.
Because the energy of that creation is already so strong, and there's nothing in her conscious or unconscious belief structures that would say it shouldn't exist anymore. When she walks out of the house, her car is going to be there. She's going to manifest it in that logical point of place in time and space and experience it and drive around in there. It's easy to manifest what you've already experienced. It's easy to have knowingness with what you've already experienced. It's easy to know what generally happens in the human experience as you've known it, because you've already experienced it. It's harder for you to know what hasn't been physically manifest yet. But when you have intuition, when you go, I don't even know why I should go there, but I should just go there, or you just do it, and then you meet somebody and something special happens and opens up your version of New Hawaii, it's because those rockets of calling, where you've been calling in those frequencies. I want a better job. We'll just use prosaic examples for this. I want a better job. I hate my job. You're sending out those desire requests to the universe. I want a better job. Now the universe is starting to spend in the frequencies. Here's how you create the codes of creation, those frequencies. Here's how you create a better job. Here's how you create it. You open up to it. Start to learn it. Brain starts to learn it. If the conscious and unconscious belief structures are clear, it's easier for your brain to just get on with that, doing that. One day, you just know you should go online and search for another job. Bang, the next day you have an interview. Bang, the next day you have the job. That job wasn't manifest for you yet, but you started to get knowingness because the energy of it was building up so strongly that when you took a couple of logical actions in time and space, it became manifest.
I think we're going to have to hold a whole another episode on manifesting.
Yes.
In the physical.
Yeah. But remember, so when people are telepathic, when they're psychic, when they're really clear, for them, they are experiencing these multidimensional experiences very strongly. It's not the same as this chair feels like this, but the sense of it feels so strong that they can clearly interpret it because it is virtually physical. Because it is in their knowingness, the energy of it is so strong that they can explain it. So that's what's happening when Georgia is saying these words. What she can interpret of the transmission right now, her brain can put it together. The energy is strong enough that it can be channeled with this certainty that is coming forward to you right now.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
That's
you
amazing.
listening will perceive on first listening what Your open centers will allow you to perceive the first time. The second time you listen to this, after you've received the frequencies first, you will probably hear and comprehend, accept, acknowledge, and understand more the second and even more the third time and the fourth time. That's how your reality, your perceptual reality is shifting. First, rockets of desire. I'm open. Send me the new intelligence. You receive it, and then you learn it, and then it becomes.
Well, I have to say that I rewatch these episodes over and over again for editing and reviewing and stuff like that. And I always learn more stuff that I didn't get after the fourth time that I watched it. And I'm like, always like, how the heck did I not even?
Yes.
So what you saying that, it's true.
Yes. So your brain is now, and because the brain and it's influencing your conscious and unconscious belief structures about what reality is. It is helping to adjust your nervous system, and your sense of known zone is being stretched, spread. Literally, you are spreading open the bandwidth that you are allowing to come in to influence and create and generate the reality you're having. So, yes, enjoy.
Well, instead of spreading our third eye, let's go ahead and close our third eye and end this episode.
Another time we'll give you more tips on how you can consciously open it up and work with it. But indeed, we want you to understand the mechanism. Also, so you don't have unrealistic expectations about it.
Okay.
Because your brain needs to learn how to interpret this for you, new frequencies.
Here for it.
Equal new reality. Yes,
Yay.
dear ones. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Indeed.
We
yes.
love you.
We adore you so very much until we're meeting in this way or some other way. For now, we'll say goodbye, dear ones. Goodbye.
Spreading and closing.
Spreading and closing. Oh, I'm always open. I'll just be sitting there and be like, what is, I can feel energy coming in. And now I understand it. And I know a lot of people out there do get that download stuff. And then you'll just be sitting there and it's like, download. But I won't know what it is. But now I understand. Instead of trying to hunt and be like, is this, like when I would feel energy come in, initially you're like, is this my grandma? Who is this? What is this? I would want to know what it is right then. And that actually kind of gets in the way if your mind starts guessing. Instead, now I just sit, I receive it, and I trust that it's being processed through this system with the pineal gland and the brain and everything. And then it's going to come out at a later date.
Wow.
As a piece of intelligence I'll be able to channel.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a gift. Our gift.
It's ability.
We're sharing.
But you can all develop it. Yeah. That's the cool thing. And just sitting and vibing with this, I mean, because we don't create a new reality by just a small group of people having a gift. We create it by a collective opening into a new bandwidth and us sharing that reality together. So even though part of me wants to be like, I'm special and I've got a special gift, that's part of that old hierarchical system. It's, it is about us all opening. And then I'll just say this, the other aspect that touch into is that as the brain uses more of the brain power to process this new reality, the brain power that has been dedicated to generating that old reality, that stuff we don't want anymore, starts to atrophy. The neural pathways start to release, rewire and refire to create this new one. So that's how we uncreate the shiznatch we don't want to experience anymore. We're uncreating it biologically. We're no longer picking up on that bandwidth and producing that through our system. And so there's something to be said about that, not watching a lot of stuff and whatever that really reinforces that old reality, but receiving the new frequencies and opening up. And once we start experiencing better things, really focusing on that and receiving that, so that becomes a stronger creation, because that is what will ultimately change the collective reality as well.
Thank you for it all.
Yeah.
All right. Well, don't forget to subscribe and tag your spiritual bestie.
Yep. Send it all on. And if you do, I've got to do a little bit of a plug. If you do want to understand more about how to open up your pineal gland and receive more attunements, that's the boot camp that I have, which is moving on to the 5D grid. Because there is something to learn about how to work through when your system might be freaking out by these unknown frequencies coming in, how to manage that so it all opens up more peacefully, more harmoniously, more easily, and just more fun.
Working with Georgia is a literal game changer. It'll change your life. Her boot camps, her Monday Night Awakenings, her one-on-one sessions. That's why I am doing this podcast with her. She has changed every aspect of my life, physically, abundance, happiness, joy. I mean, it's just like, this is crazy work. It's not just like, oh, we're talking about bending the matrix.
It's not,
it's
like
it's
not
literally
just
she
conceptual.
has proven herself over and over and over. Holy shit, my mind is blown all the time. And it's all through love and acceptance and being in your heart.
Yeah, it's nothing too freaky.
Yeah,
like, you've got to like pull out the tin foil and, get some beakers going and stuff. It's really, there is a beautiful system that's already in place to do all this, which is the heart. Will kind of run this process for you, and primarily that's it's kind of one of the most challenging things is to just get into your heart. Once you're in your heart, it all happens easily, but that's what we're really kind of mentoring people is just how do you get from being in your mind and being into your heart where this can all organically unfold and you can start getting the bennies right now, babies.
That's your homework, guys. Get into your heart center, feel the center of your chest, love and accept the part of you that resists being in your heart, and wash, rinse, and repeat, baby.
Wash, rinse, and repeat. It's that easy.
We love you all, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Woo-hoo, bye.
Bye.